Arkansas wins. Arkansas wins. What's up, baby? This is Will Z Tidwell. You're tuning into an episode of Skybox Conversations, man. Like I said, man, those Arkansas Hogs get a tough win tonight against a very good Vanderbilt team, man, on their home floor. A quad 1A win on the road, down two starters. Don't got Boogie. You don't got Thiero. No problem. No problem. And this is the funny thing about this team because I said this on the last episode where I talked about we just sometimes don't know what version of this team we're going to get. Right? We just don't know sometimes what version of them is going to show up. And tonight, the dominant version of them showed up. The ones that wasn't taking no shit, right? The ones that imposed their will, the ones that showed and used their length to their advantage when you and gave Vanderbilt problems, right? And so many things I want to break down. We're gonna start doing some things where we do some awards at the after each game for the Lakers and for the Razorbacks. Some awards that can be general to both teams, right? Um, some really cool ones, man. But I want to answer some key questions that I felt like came from the game and break down some things that I saw, some things I wanted to kind of discuss and go from there. Especially if you're talking about moving forward in this crucial month of March, SEC tournament right around the corner. Question number one is: did this win do enough for their NCAA tournament hopes? Did this win tonight against Vanderbilt do enough for Arkansas when it comes to their tournament hopes? Now, right now we are labeled as the last four in when it comes to the bracketology. One of the last four teams in, and we knew right between this game, then you got Mississippi State coming up, and I believe that's it. If I'm not mistaken, it might be one more, but I believe that's the last one for before the tournament starts, right? And this was we knew we needed at least one more win. It would have been great if it came against Mississippi State, who was a ranked team. But again, this is a quad 1A win because Vanderbilt has beat some really good teams and they're really, really good at home. And so let's break down some of the stats, and look at some of those things. But when you talk about did it do enough, I think that it's hard to ignore. I think that um, it's gonna make the decision makers when it comes to the tournament have to think twice before not putting them in because that's a good win. And the frustrating thing about this Arkansas team is that they show glimpses of where they can beat anybody in the country. But then they had these games where, like the South Carolina game, where it's just unexplainable. The ball just couldn't go in the rim to save its life, and that was why I made the video where I wasn't literally saying Arkansas sucks. Right? I love this team through and through, but what I said is that you can't blame Cal for the ball not going in the rim, right? That's not a coaching thing because if you can see tonight, if you don't know ball for real, then you won't realize this. But Coach Cal coached his ass off tonight, right? You hold their best player, one of the top 10 scorers in the SEC, to zero field goals. That's tough, man. All right. So when you talk about what did it do enough, I think it definitely pushes them in the right direction. And I think that if you can get a Mississippi State win or at least make that game very, very interesting and good, then you're really in there. But I think you definitely have a chance now. I do. I really do. How does this affect their momentum for next game? You know what? Just to be sure, so I can be accurate, I want to see who does Arkansas play. Uh, who do we play next game? All right. So next game, we do have Mississippi State on the 8th, and I do believe that is the last one before the tournament starts. And so Mississippi State, now this is going to be important because Mississippi State just came off of a tough loss. Um, Came off of a tough loss to Texas, right? Texas beat them on Mississippi State's own floor. And Mississippi State is number 25 in the nation. That's a tough loss at home. And now they got to come to Budwalter Arena and try to get one from us. So when you talk about do we have a chance and what kind of momentum that carries for us, I think it's immense. But you also have to understand the sense of urgency that this Mississippi State team is going to have, the desperation that they're also going to be playing with. Not so much because they're not going to get in the tournament, but because they don't want to go out like that after coming off of a close loss like that, right? And we don't want to go out with a loss for the last game of the regular season, right? In tournament in conference play. And so I think it's going to be a dogfight. And I think if we're ready and prepared for that, and we came out like we did today with that sense of urgency and effort, we can't be beat. We're going to be a really, really hard team to beat. And so I think it carries, immense momentum into the next game. But we got to understand also that this team is going to be playing with urgency too. We got to understand that. We got to remember that, right? Does this game change how we view Arkansas? I think that it doesn't change how I view Arkansas, but it does give you hope again and make you remember that, man, this team can beat anybody. Right? I've said this. They can beat Michigan. They can beat Texas. They can beat Missouri, right? A good ranked SEC team. You can go down to the wire with Alabama, right? You could have won that game, without a few, crucial things at the end of the game. Yeah, man, this team changed how you view this, Arkansas immensely, and it makes you say we know that they can beat anybody, but sometimes we just don't know what version of them is going to show up. Right. But when you got a game where Johnell Davis is hooping, you got a game where Big Z gives you something with Trevor Brazile, the OG Trevor Brazile, the one when Musselman was here, the one that was at Maui, and we was like, oh, this is a first round draft pick, Brazile. When he's playing like that, it's over with, man. It's over with. Let's look at the numbers, man. Johnell Davis gave you 21. That's vintage Johnell Davis, right? That's OG Johnell Davis, bro. When he was over there with over there at what was it, Florida Atlantic, right? DJ Wagner gave you 14 and hit some big shots, big three, efficient, 5 for 9. Right. Then Brazile gave was 6 for 8 for 16 points and 14 rebounds. 4 of them were offensive rebounds. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. Carter Knox gave you 10, right? And was efficient, 4 for 9. And then you got Big Z giving you 14. It was at 5 for 11. Like that's what you need, man. That gives you a chance to win when that type of thing happened, when you got your whole starting five giving you something, and then you get some things off the bench as well. You get another 8 from Billy Richmond. A dude gives you 7. Man, they give you a chance to win. It gives you a damn good chance to win. And you only have 7 people. And what I think when it comes to Brazile, what I think the difference was, because I made a video where I said, I'm not sure if he's still bothered by his injury from the past and he's scared to be explosive again. Has he lost his confidence? Is Cal using him a certain way that's questionable? I don't know I didn't know what it was. But what I can say is that now that Brazile has no choice but to be aggressive and to be himself and to show up and play the game, he's doing it. But the thing is, and this is going to be a thing that Cal's going to have to figure out on the fly, is that when and if the arrow comes back, how do you get Brazile to keep playing the way he's playing, but also get the arrow to be who he is? How do they get to feed into each other instead of bumping heads with each other? I'm not saying they're beefing, but saying bumping heads, meaning when the arrow's on, you still need Brazile to be on, and vice versa. He still needs Johnell Davis to make his shots, right? You just need everybody to click at the same time. Can we have 3 or 4 collective games where everybody is doing their job? They don't have to be perfect, but just do your job, right? And do it at a high level. And if we can do that, then we can beat anybody. We can literally beat anybody. I wholeheartedly believe that. Wholeheartedly. But it did change a few things though. It did remind me that we can beat anybody. That's what it did. Did Arkansas answer any concerns that have been lingering? I mean, I guess one of the biggest concerns was Brazile, right? And could the team overall bounce back from such a horrendous performance on Saturday? A performance where I had to turn the game off because it was so bad, right? So a game I had to literally turn it off because it was so bad, right? That was I think some of my biggest concerns is how was Arkansas going to bounce back from that game on Saturday against South Carolina? Right? The worst team in the league, right? That Georgia, by the way, beat tonight. And could you have multiple guys step up simultaneously and have good games? Could Brazile be one of those people? Those are the type of things I've asked myself for quite a while, actually. Um, it happened here tonight, and you see what it resulted to. It resulted to us holding them under 80 points, us, getting very close to 100, and being fairly efficient, right? What's that we shot from the field? Did we shoot? Was that 50% from the field? We shot 50.8% from the field and 33% from the three, which isn't great. They shot 40% from the three, but only 38% from the field. Right. And then they shot 21, they shot 27 free throws and made 21. We shot 22 and made 16. Right. So from the two, getting to the paint, imposing our will, we were great. How many paint points did we have? We had 9. We had how many paint points did we have? This is just a box score. All right. I would need to look at just the overall game comparison so I could see that thing. Okay, right here we go. I'm gonna show it to y'all too, so y'all can see it. Hold on, I'm gonna show it to y'all. All right, so you talk about paint points. Let me see. I need to show you the paint point. All right, so we finally got that right now. So now points in the paint, 48 to 26. That was really one of the biggest difference in the games, right? We didn't foul as much. Man had one more turnover, which is still great, right? And still was able to pull out the win. Didn't have as many steals. Look, 8 blocks. That was big. Out rebounding them plus 11, right? So those are some of the key areas of the game where like our toughness and a dude like Brazile, man, really made the difference for us, bro. Like really made the difference for us. But those were some of my biggest concerns that I had when you talk about things that have been lingering. Can people show up at the same time? Can Brazile ever have a vintage performance and look like himself of old? Um, can Wagner find that swag again and getting downhill, right? Like those are always things in the back of your mind, right? So real quick, we're gonna answer this last question, then we're gonna do some of those new awards I talked about, and we're gonna wrap this thing up. So, how will this affect the bracketologist view of Arkansas? I mean, I think you have to take it into consideration and say it's a pretty damn good win, especially when you look at the resume of Vanderbilt. I think their strength of schedule was even a couple points higher than ours, and they had some notable wins on their schedule. They beat Missouri as well, I think, just this past weekend. And so you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that. And I think they should be able to go from last 4 in to maybe last 4 buys or something like that. Like you should be able to climb back up net rating wise and all of those different things and be able to be seen as a team that can be dangerous, especially if you let them in the tournament, especially when you get fully healthy. And we can again get it all clicking at the same time in the same direction. This team is scary. This team is scary. So I got a couple of awards that I want to do, man. Just highlighting different people, and kind of just breaking down what each award means and why they're the ones being awarded with it for this in particular game against Vanderbilt. And so the first one is going to be called the one, and that's very obvious. That's the one that stood out the game, right? Made the game what it was. Like was the one that brought it from start to finish, the MVP, right? And I think there's nobody else other than Brazile. And again, I think it kind of speaks for itself when you look at the numbers. I mean, let's look at him. Yes, again, 16, 10, 14 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds, 6 for 8, 3 for 5 from the three. Look, 2 blocks, right? Like he had a beautiful game. Had a beautiful game. I mean, you also could have given it to Johnell Davis, right, with the 21 points. Not as efficient, not quite, but still had a great game. Had a couple tough finishes around the rim where he could have made those layups, but you could also, throw Johnell Davis in that conversation for the one. But I think you got to give it to Brazile for the effort on both ends, right? The steals, the blocks, the disruption, being long, being big, being aggressive, dunking on people, just being a highlight reel, which is what we remember him for, right? The hidden gem, the person that if you really didn't pay attention or just wasn't looking, you wouldn't notice the little things that they did. But I would have to probably get that hidden gem to DJ Wagner. DJ Wagner, or you know what? You could also give it to Billy Richmond. Billy Richmond has some really good energy off the bench. I feel like plays like him getting downhill and getting the and one dunk, like that was a turning moment for us. His aggressiveness, his play on the ball, him making plays. I feel like those type of things is may wouldn't go unnoticed because he only had 8 points, but sometimes he does those things on the court that are intangible. Right now, granted, he has 7 turnovers. right? Had a really tough turnover at the end of the game. They brought it within like 9 or something like that, which was tough. But again, you can look at that and think he had a terrible game. But if you watch the game, he did some things that um, made you say, "Man, that was a game changing moment," right? When you talk about a what the fuck moment, right? A WTF moment. You know what? I can't really remember a what the fuck moment, and that could be and what that means, that can be like a dirty play. That can be something that got you just like a head scratcher, just kind of questioning some things, things of that nature. I can't really remember a moment from this game where you were just kind of like, what the fuck? Like, I really can't remember one. Just a crazy play or just a dirty play. It was a besides maybe the refs. The refs were questionable at times. But other than that, it was a pretty just great game, man. Arkansas kind of, when they took control, they dominated for the most part, if I'm being honest. The heart and soul, I think you got to give that to somebody like Carter Knox. He came in, man, and he's been so great the last handful of games. And I remember watching the game tonight, and there was just this instant where he made like 2 or 3 just good plays in a row. You know what I mean? He got a steal, and got out and got him a dunk, and then he got he got a tough and one coming down in traffic. I think he had 2 and ones, right? So like just him being aggressive and being confident, and really bringing that energy, that was great for us. And also I think you give that to Billy Richmond as well. You talk about just kind of the heart and soul. He had some great energy plays, and I really hope them 2 dudes come back next year for Arkansas. I really do, man. The disappearing act. No disrespect, but I think that would probably have to go on Vanderbilt's side to Jason Edwards, man. I remember watching him at North Texas a little while. 0 for 12 from the field, 0 for 4 from the 3, only made 2 free throws for 2 points. Really a non-factor. And again, this is a top 10 scorer in the league, averaging like 17 something points a game. So the game plan on him was, outstanding. And you made other dudes have to step up, and we kind of just shut his water off, man. And it was a joy to see. I mean, every time we got to the round, they were sending it back. I think he got a shot block 5 or 6 times. Then he was so out of a rhythm, he was just kind of rushing his shot, like gave him real problems, man. It was a great defensive effort. Man, it was great. It was great. And last but not least, that spark plug. Again, I think that kind of has to go back to, you know what? I'm going to flip that around. The heart and soul is also going to have to be Trevon Brazile, because of, again, what he did on both ends of the floor. More even particular, the defense he turned to offense. And again, him just finding that rhythm. And the spark plug is going to be Carter Knox, because I think the and ones, the dunk, and you can share that with Billy Richmond. The energy that they brought, they gave us that jolt that kind of took us to that next level, right? Where it went from a 4 or 6 point game. I looked up, we was a 14. Um, I would have to switch that around. Yeah. And I think that's um more fitting, if I'm being honest. But what I'm realizing and we all know is that the SEC is a gauntlet. Any given night, anybody can kick the shit out of anybody, and it was good to be on the right side of it this time, where Arkansas did the kicking instead of being kicked. And yeah, that just felt good for once, man. So big win for Arkansas. Got another important one coming up this weekend against a hungry Mississippi State team that coming off a tough loss in overtime to Texas. So they're going to be hungry, man. We got to be hungrier. We got to be some dogs, and we got to protect home. And go into SEC tournament with even more momentum and play the same way we played today, but 10 times more. And I think we'll be fine. But yeah, that's going to conclude this episode of Skybox Conversations. Be sure to like, subscribe to the video and to the channel. I love y'all so much, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.